What is up, everybody? It is Josh back with another video. I just returned home from the regionals in Cologne with almost 300 players, and I did pretty badly at it. Well, at least for my standards, I went 3 wins and 3 losses, and then I decided to drop. I thought for a bit whether I even wanted to make this deck profile because I'm more of a fan of making deck profiles when you actually put up results with a deck, but since I did promise people on chat that I was going to show them what I decided to end up playing, and I figured, there's also something to learn from when you don't do as well at a tournament. I figured I would still upload it and talk about what I played, why I played it, and what I'm taking away from a tournament experience that didn't go as I had planned or as I had imagined it. And maybe you'll still find it helpful. I played Labyrinth, which is a choice that might seem a little odd, and in hindsight, it kind of is. In reality, I thought I was going to play Sprite until yesterday night. I was building Sprite. I sat here Friday night cooking up the different versions of Sprite, and nothing felt quite right. And then I was like scrambling towards, like, I don't know, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. We've all been there before a regional, and I was like, damn, what am I gonna play? And I had some ideas, didn't have the cards for it, and I was like, am I just gonna run Sprite or like? But it didn't feel that good. But I also, like I said in my previous video, I didn't want to play Kashtira, so I was like, you know what? I have Labyrinth, I have all the cards, and I am not sure whether the deck is an option for me for the 250th YCS. So I'm just gonna run it and see how it feels, just so I know whether I can, view it as an option for next week's YCS, or just like kind of set it aside and be like, okay, Labyrinth is not it. And I do feel like that's what I'm going to do, but I'm still going to show you the list and talk about what worked and what didn't. Before we continue, I need to really quickly tell you about something, because I'm hosting my very first tournament next month, which is April 2023. I'm partnering up with SmartGuard, longtime supporter of the channel, to bring you guys an IRL Edison event. It's going to be located in Karlsruhe, Germany, 22nd of April. It's currently planned to have room for 200 players. We've already sold over half of the tickets available, and if they sell out relatively quickly, I've been told there might be the possibility to upgrade to 300 players. So make sure, link to that is going to be in the description down below. Check it out if you want to come through and play some Edison format with over 200 players, PlayStation 5 and more amazing prizes up for grabs. If you can't make it, don't worry, coverage will be on my Twitch channel, also linked down below. If you're into the format, or you have any friends that are into Edison format, make sure to check it out and let them know. Without further ado, I don't want to interrupt you any further. Let's continue with the video. I played Labyrinth. I played 3 Lady Labyrinth. I played 3 Ariana, and I honestly don't see how you cannot play 3 of this card. I, even with 3 of this card, had issues with bricking with the deck because it just doesn't have that many starters, and I got ashed on Prosperity a lot today. Like, Ash is in everyone's deck because Despia is everywhere, so I felt like having the max amount of ways to your engine traps was very, very necessary. I even think in hindsight it might be possible to play some of the furnitures. But yeah, then I played this thing, which honestly, this is like one of the reasons why I did so poorly, is I drew this thing out of the 6 rounds, which was like the first 3 rounds were 2-0s in either way, and then I think the other ones were all 2-1s. So that is 15 games, and I think I opened this like 8 times, which I'm not exaggerating. It felt so bad today. But it's obviously necessary. But yeah, this was frustrating today. And then I decided to play 3 Ashes for 2 reasons. I wanted to respect Branded. I faced no Branded in the 6 rounds today, but I did see a lot of Brandeds left and right, so I still think this was fine. This also prevented one of my Kashtira opponent from doing the full zone lock because they were going for the full combo. And I felt like, if you have Ash Blossom in your deck, you can at least prevent that. Even though it's not great against Kashtira, it's also not terrible. But yeah, this is just like mainly here for Branded. And that's the monsters. And then I played the, at this point, very standard 6 pots, and I decided to play the field spell. The field spell felt pretty good if you have engine with it. The thing is, if you don't have engine, you're not winning anyways. And if you have engine, the card is pretty good. So I think as a one-of searchable option, it was nice. I did search it a couple times, and when I drew it, it was also pretty all right. For the trap cards, you play 3 welcome and 3 big welcome. That's self-explanatory. And then I played a full 9 spot removals. Punishment, Overroot, Compulse. Since I played mostly Kashtira today, I played 3 Kashtira out of 6 rounds. The Overroots were pretty solid, just like being able to block their board with like out something, non-destruction as well, so you can out Shangri-Ira, which can be annoying, and then just like set something to their field that they can't deal with, so they can't special summon their Kashtiras, was pretty nice. Compulse, on the other hand, was rather mediocre, simply because if you play mostly against Kashtira and not many like Brandits or whatnot, like Compulse is not that sick, but it's still a very solid card overall. Very often you can also end up bouncing your own Labyrinth monsters to hand to trigger some other stuff. I did play Skill Drain, which might seem very standard to everybody, but I was really, really close on not playing this card, and it honestly didn't really perform very well. I don't think there was a single game that I won with Skill Drain that I would have lost otherwise. Like, I flipped the card a couple times and won with it, but I'm convinced that most of those games were games that I win if it's any other solid trap card instead. Simply because in order for you to win with Skill Drain, you already need to be able to resolve your welcome labyrinths and whatnot and put big beat sticks on the field. And yeah, this card, I don't think this card was that great. I'm gonna be honest. The reason why I kept it in the deck yesterday night when I built it, or like the reason why I added it back in, was I built the main deck, and then I started to build the side deck, and then while I built the side deck, I realized I have not that many answers to Denko Sekka, like only Solemn Judgment, which is in my side deck, and I was like, that's not that great because I'm seeing a lot of Denko Sekkas right now, and I did lose I did lose a round to Denko Sekka because they even lead me. I had Judgment, and then they Denkoed me after, but there's that. But yeah, I wanted one more out to Denko where you can just like flip it in draw phase and then you don't have to worry about Denko anymore. I think that was the only reason for me to play Skill Drain. And obviously it wasn't bad. Like, it's Skill Drain, so it was still okay. But I don't know if you actually need this card. I played Evenly. Evenly was pretty good. The only concern with Evenly is that if they go for the full zone lock, it obviously doesn't help with Kashtira. And if they go for just a Rysard, it's not bad because it gets rid of all, like, you know, back row, birth, preparation, lands, annoying cards, right? But the most annoying card is still the Rysard. I did lose a game against Kashtira, which honestly was pretty like disheartening. They tried to go for the full zone lock. I ashed them at some point in the combo. They still ended up locking like 3 zones, and they ended up on an Arisard, Shangri-Ira, Diablosis, and they set all the cards in their hand. So they had no cards left in hand. I even lead them, so they kept only a Rysard, and I still lost. My 4-card hand couldn't beat the Arisard because they had like Prosperity beforehand, so the Arisard had like Garura attached, it had Big Bang attached, it had Theosis attached, and all that stuff got banished later. Like, off of that one Arisard, they came back. Like, because I said 4 in my end phase, they banish one of the 4 set cards. Big Bang brings back Fenrir. On their turn, they banish another of my set cards. Fenrir searches, and it's like, it's even if you have Ash Evenly, apparently you can just be beaten by that one Ariser. So I don't know. Evenly still solid overall, especially if they don't go for the full zone lock, then Evenly alone is pretty solid. I played a Daruma Karma Cannon. This card was really good. I wish I played more of this, simply because it works going second a lot, but also just like going first. Most decks, if you just like flip their stuff face down, really good against Kashtira, just book. I like this card. I wish I played more. And I played 1 D-Berry. I wish I didn't play this. This was awful all weekend. I didn't play any Brandits. It should be a side deck card. This is how I handled it with Eradicator. I'm not maining Eradicator because I feel like it's only good in some matchups. I should have done the same thing with Berry. I should have sided it for Branded. And it did end up biting me a lot. Even though I only played 1, I drew this card dead so many times. My losses, I played against 3 Kashtiras, 1 Dark World, 1 Fire Brigade Lyrilusk, and 1 Sprite. And I lost to 2 Kashtiras, and I lost to the Dark World. The Dark World game was pretty absurd. Like, game 1, I opened this hand, which is unplayable, and on top of having, of course, this card, it has 3 dead cards against Dark World, and then this, like, no engine. So I got destroyed game 1. In game 2, that was the player where I had Judgment for Evenly, and then they summoned Denko in main phase 2 and started playing with like Genta and had like a couple dangers that didn't hit themselves. So I got annihilated by Dark World. Then I beat a Kashtira in round 3, and then I beat the Sprite in round 4. So I was 3-1, and then I just got bopped by 2 Kashtiras in a row for various reasons. You know, one of them just had like the perfect hand for going second, like Duster, Birth, Unicorn, Field Spell, Ash on my turn for Prosperity, then Ash on his turn again for the Welcome Labyrinth. It was not pretty today. And then the other Kashtira was just like, I won game 1. Game 2, they go first, they commit full on into sphere mode, but I don't have it. And then game 3, I go first with no engine again. It was a frustrating day. Anyways, the extra deck is not super important, but because we do play Punishment and also Ultimate Slayer in the side deck, there's a couple things. You played this thing, you played 2 Lingorebus just in case of Ibli. You have the space. This thing I summoned once, Paleozoic because based. The basic idea is you can use this to send it with Ultimate Slayer after you've used Prosperity, because then you don't want to send Bucephalus because there's no point in sending Garura after Prosperity. So this is here. 2 Enthys, 2 Garura, 1 of the Fossil Knight, this and this because we play Ultimate Slayer, this also because we play Ultimate Slayer. Sometimes it comes up with Punishment, not today, and 1 Dingirsu. For the side deck, I decided to play 3 Sphere Modes. I think this card is really good in the Labyrinth side deck. It creates a lot of cool dynamics. I think if you're playing against Labyrinth, you're just very, very inclined to go for the Zone Lock if you're playing Kashtira, because I feel like if you just go for a Rise Hard Pass, and they just set 5, it's not as dominant as it can be in other matchups. But yeah, that's the idea behind Sphere Mode. I think they're very much incentivized to commit into the Sphere Mode, which all of my Kashtira opponents did. I only drew it once though against Kashtira post side, and that it did win me that match. But if I had drawn that a little bit more often, I feel like I'm beating some of those Cash players today. But that's that. I like the dynamic between Evenly and Sphere Mode, especially if you have Prosperity and Duality as like consistency cards on top of that, where you can just like whatever plays around Evenly plays into this. If they don't go for the full Zone Lock, you play into Evenly. So that was cute. I noticed that it was actually not really the going second games most of the time. Funnily enough, even though it's a trap deck, like the games I lost was mostly the games where I went first, and it was just like Lovely was glued to my hand today, and then I just like didn't open engine very often, or I just got ashed out the wazoo on my engine. It's yeah, it is yeah. I played 3 Lordy Heavenly Prison because I wanted to be safe from Duster, from Lightning Storm, and I played 1 Coup Clock alongside the Heavenly Prison. I think this card is pretty neat when you go first because you can set up, you can play one-off traps that you can just fetch to respond to whatever they're doing, right? You can fetch the one-off barrier against Branded and immediately use it. You can fetch the Eradicator, you can fetch whatever, you know, you have like a pointer for Evenly and Denko and whatnot. This is a pretty neat card. I played 3 Slayer. I think it's honestly criminal if you're already playing the Punishment extra deck to not play this card. This card was huge. I demolished Sprite with this card. The only matchup where this card is not like insane is Kashtira because of Arisard. In any other matchup, this card is so strong. If there's a link or a fusion on the board with Bucephalus or Garura, you just have the same number of cards as you had before, but now it's gone. So this was really good. 3 Judgment for going first. This card is unfortunately mandatory because, you know, Denko, Evenly, Feather Duster, Lightning Storm. Honestly, maybe altogether reasons not to play this deck, because I'm gonna be honest, outside of negating those power cards, Evenly is a pretty mediocre card right now. Like, it felt so bad that sometimes I was like, you know, I don't have engine right now, I don't have a board, so I ended up judgmenting, like, sometimes I judgmented, like, a unicorn, because I was like, if I just let that unicorn resolve and they just, like, beat me down, I lose to that. And then, of course, they had another Kashtira to follow that up, like, naturally. And I don't know. Judgment is good if you can play already. So maybe that's something you need to work on, or I need to work on this list. And then I played a Pointer and Eradicator because one of, like I said, with Coup Clock, one of accessible cards, pretty good. And that's the deck. I honestly don't think the deck is that bad as I'm feeling right now, because I'm feeling pretty bad about the result. But I think it's still a fine deck. I think I just had a pretty rough day, combined with it was my first tournament that I brought Labyrinth to, so maybe there's a couple things you could improve. I was not happy with the consistency of the deck. I think if anything, it was not consistent enough, because it just like 1 Ash ended up making me brick, and then you can have turn skips, you can have karma cannons, you can have removal all you want. If you're not playing, you're not putting them under any sort of pressure. That doesn't do anything, right? So I really am thinking about ways to improve that. Maybe like I think maybe there's ways you can include cards like the furnitures, the backjack with the ghastly glitch, just more cards that feel like their engine, while also, you know, bringing traps to the field. An obvious problem of this deck is how do you handle, you know, the possibility of Kashtira going for the full Zone Lock, because against all the other matchups you wouldn't really want to play. Like the Ash Blossom is a card that, while it didn't feel bad, it doesn't feel like it's right in this deck, right? It doesn't feel like it's right. I feel like it would be perfect if there wasn't a full Zone Lock around and you could just like play just Evenly together with Prosp and Duality, and I think that would fix in terms of your odds of being able to play when going second, this is honestly fine. Like I said, going second was actually surprisingly not the problem today. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you can fix all of that. Like I said, skill drain and barrier felt pretty weak. I think those cards are not necessary for this deck to win. Once it gets going, this deck is super fun. This is honestly why I wanted to play it too. I kind of had some hopes that if it gets going, it does feel like, you know, you can play, you can experience playing Paleo again. And it was like that in a couple of games. In a couple of games when we actually just got to the grind game, even against Kashtira, I had a couple of really good games that went to a grind game. And this deck ends up clutching them out without the help of skill drain, without the help of D-Berry. I ended up winning a couple really solid grind games against Kashtira today, even though overall I did go 1-2 against Kashtira. But that was mostly because I got blown out in other games or bricked going first, you know? Like, I think overall it's... Yeah, I don't know how representative this is of Labyrinth as a deck. Obviously, Labyrinth is still a good deck. I just had a bad day with it. And maybe the list can be improved. I'm going to take some time to think about what that means for the YCS. I hope that if any one of you is planning to play Labyrinth and you are comfortable with it, make sure... Like, don't let this discourage you. Just take some of the input that I've just given you and maybe apply it to your deck. I think Labyrinth is still overall a fine pick. Whether it's going to be my favorite pick for the next weekend after this, probably not. But I'm going to still, you know, apply some of the changes that I wanted to make to the deck after today and still give it a shot at some point this week. I haven't completely given up on the deck yet, but of course, having a rough day like that will affect my willingness to play the deck next week. But yeah, there's that. Anyways, even though it's not a topping deck profile, I hope you enjoyed it regardless. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Check out all the links in the description down below. You already know. It's pretty late. I'm going to head to bed. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed the profile. Thanks for watching, and peace.